When it's time to begin, it's on the Rewind-A-Dynamite with John Pollock and Wai Ting. Me 18, that makes sense of these things we see in the ring every week on TV. It's Rewind-A-Dynamite for Monday night. Download a Tuesday morning from the Post Wrestling site. It's Rewind-A-Dynamite for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the Mic.
That is right. Wai Ting and John Pollock live from Toronto.
Ooh.
The home of the 2025 World Series champions.
You got to keep the hat on the whole show.
No, I can't.
Come on.
It's
if they win the series, will you do a show with the hat? And every time they win a series and they advance, you have to wear an extra article of clothing for the entire podcast.
An extra article of
An
clothing.
extra Jay's branded article of clothing.
Oh, okay. I don't have any Jays articles.
I can lend you some.
Oh yeah, I mean you have like the '92 fall line from the Blue Jays.
I have a shirt that I still fit from when I was 10 years old. Yes, sad,
Okay.
but yeah.
Well, yes, folks, we're up 2-0. Nothing is going to go wrong. The real main event of Tuesday night.
It's interesting to contrast your enthusiasm for the Jays like playoffs campaign and the Leafs.
I don't see how one should extend to the other. Like one is
You're the one who brought them up before.
I'm the Jays are a team I've seen with my own eyes can win the whole thing. I have no in-person evidence of the Toronto Maple Leafs being even capable of such.
It's just a theory.
I've seen the Raptors win. I've seen the Argonauts win. I've seen the Blue Jays win. Who's the outlier?
It very true. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, if you want a full recap of Game 1 and 2, as well as our look at all of the news items, do join the Post Wrestling Cafe, where you get the XL edition of Rewind-A-Raw. Wai and I just went 35 plus minutes talking about TikTok, the end of Santos Escobar's WWE tenure, which is about to be over in less than 40 minutes. The Smashing Machine did not smash any box office records other than Dwayne Johnson's lowest opening weekend ever. So even Dwayne Johnson acknowledging that you can't control box office results. We do a whole discussion on the Smashing Machine. Doki, once again, your IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, won earlier today. A quick couple of thoughts on UFC 320. And if you want to go onto our YouTube channel today or the free feed, Brandon Thurston and I did a bonus show today chatting with Douglas Pucci of Programming Insider, which I know most people have bookmarked. So if you want to hear one of the men behind all of the ratings data that is gathered at Programming Insider, we talked about the most menacing tag team to take on pro wrestling, Big Data and Panel. T-shirts coming.
Love it, honestly. Have you seen the Tupac and Biggie wrestling AI videos?
If I could block every one of those videos that came up on my reels this weekend, I would hit block all in a heartbeat. I can't tell you how fast I got sick of those videos and how tortured some of these creators must be for the things that they created and I had to see over the weekend. I absolutely hate this phenomenon, and it's also just so clearly AI as well. Like
you don't say.
They're not at a point now where the purpose is just for like a ha. It's not going to fool anyone, but man, we're just going to be stuck with this shit for the next for our lifetimes. Is this slop?
So the purpose is for in these situations, the purpose is for a ha, yes. But I have no doubt it's already being used for way more nefarious means when you're using it to trick old people or just even younger people, like with this sort of thing. It's crazy. Like I'm just shocked at how
I'm not even going to give credence or any ounce of publicity to like some of the things I saw created that are just like horrific.
Yeah. But
welcome to our new world.
I didn't,
and this stuff's only going to get worse.
Yeah, I know. I only brought it up because I was thinking about just the sort of like that tag team being turned into an actual like tag team, Big Data and Panel as an actual tag team, and
if this was the early 90s, they would be like a job team on Superstars this weekend, I bet.
Yes, they would be. Yeah. Anyway.
Also want to make mention, over the weekend, we had some shows coming out that you should absolutely go check out. The Long and Winding Royal Road returned to Post Wrestling. Rich Fan joining up with WH Park, and they chatted about the 1 hour Broadway between Kenta Kobashi and Toshiaki Kawada from January of 1995. That is up now. They spend the whole show dissecting this match. Saturday night, Wai Ting joined Kate from Montreal for Collision Course. We also have a UFC 320 review with Jack Wannon and Eric Marcotte. So all of that can be found at postwrestling.com. Wai and I will be back on Tuesday night, a special Tuesday night edition of Rewind-A-Dynamite. We're going head-to-head with Poison Rana. They will be covering NXT Showdown. We will be doing Title Tuesday. So an earlier night than usual covering Dynamite.
Yep, all of it taking place live here at youtube.com/postwrestling. So whatever show you decide to watch, you can find a post show right afterwards on this channel.
Yes, and for the rest of the week, we're going to do our Smashing Machine review on Thursday on the Post Wrestling Cafe. Friday, we will not be doing Rewind to SmackDown, but tentatively, I may be doing a bonus show with our favorite native of Northern Ireland. So you may look out for that on Friday. And then Saturday night, we will be doing, myself and Wai, a review of Crown Jewel Perth.
And then Sunday.
Oh, yeah. Sunday's Bound for Glory. And I didn't realize this. I knew this weekend was packed, but I did not realize that not only do we have a lot of shows, we also have time zone differences. So Bound for Glory is Sunday night, which I'm doing with Jack Wannon. Monday morning is Raw. Monday morning is King of Pro Wrestling. So there's a lot of wrestling in a very small amount of time. But the tentative plan is Wai and I are going to do an earlier version of Rewind to Raw next Monday, covering that show. And if I have time, I would like to see the Zach Takeshita match. So that is all happening next Monday. A lot of pro wrestling. Happy Thanksgiving, Canada.
This is the life we chose.
It is the life we chose, as Wai always reminds us. Tonight, Raw was in Dallas, Texas at the American Airlines Center. The final number from WrestleTix was 11,476, which is still a very good number, but was down from their last visit in January, where this was like the third week on Netflix. They did 14,324 in the same building. And then last March of 2024, they were here, and the Polestar number we got was 12,721. So those are your comparison points going back to the last two visits to what is a very large arena, this American Airlines Center. So large that we started off with Roman Reigns, who came out, and he just stood there and stood there and stood there. Then Bronson Reed and Paul Heyman interrupted him, and they came out and just stood there and stood there to the point that Reigns said, "Are you guys going to talk, or are you just going to stand there?" And I was thinking, I think they're just going to stand here. And Heyman explains that Reigns, in his whole life, has never been taken out on a stretcher. Not in football, not in wrestling, and not at a Samoan family barbecue. But then Bronson Reed was able to send him to the hospital on a stretcher. And also made note of the fact that Afa and Sika had never been taken out on stretchers. Reigns wants to fight now, but Heyman calms down Bronson, and then Reigns says that he will face him anytime, anywhere. You can name the time and place. So Heyman suggests Crown Jewel this Saturday in a special type of match. And given this promo, I thought for sure we were getting a stretcher match. No, we're getting an Australian street fight that Bronson has never lost, and Reigns accepts and calls them bitches.
See, I don't doubt the validity of that statement, but like they were playing this up as if it was like the signature match of Bronson Reed in his career. And
they said this was the match that caught the attention of the WWE.
Again, I don't doubt the validity of that. Like, maybe I'm sure there is, but it's like it's not.
No, what got their attention was this guy being booked like a monster in the G1 and wasn't under contract in New Japan. That's
to our knowledge, has he ever had any of these Australian street fights while in New Japan? Like, which would have been his biggest platform prior to this?
No, not that I'm aware of. Like, yeah, I would remember that.
In Bronson Reed lore, he is known for the Australian street fight.
Yes. So anyway,
which what does that mean? Like we're going to get some kangaroos?
If it was WWE, yeah, we probably would be. I mean, he's probably going to be the babyface in this match too. I mean, it'll be interesting the way this is how this
to
is.
some extent, I wonder. But I mean, Roman is just such a mega star that that he's going to get cheered, I'm sure.
So Reed then runs into the ring. He will not stand being called a bitch, and he eats a Superman punch. Big pull apart. Reigns clears through them and hits a second Superman punch. So pretty good brawl here to end things, and this gets Roman onto the show for Saturday. So it looks like 6 matches heading into Perth.
Yeah. I thought the interaction between Roman and Heyman was very good. It built on the familiarity they had with each other, with Roman basically predicting exactly what Heyman was telling Bronson Reed in that situation. I thought the physicality was pretty strong as well between these two. They, like a very quick build, essentially. I mean, this is a long story that these two have already had. Last feud was about the shoes. This one, they don't need the shoes anymore, I suppose. They're done.
Australian street fight. Maybe we will see a shoey.
It really would be perfect for that, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Maybe Tai Tuivasa will be in attendance.
Grayson Waller has done shoeys.
He has.
Every Australian does shoeys. That's how they drink.
Asuka is screaming at Adam Pearce. She wants a match between Io and Kairi Sane tonight. And I swear to God, Adam Pearce says, I have to go check if there's room in the show. Yes. On this same show, he had to go see if there was time when he had 2 matches booked, and we would get an impromptu trios match with AJ Styles and company, and we would get this impromptu tag match to main event this show as well. There was so much on this show, they needed an overrun.
Yes, they did, yeah. It's funny how it all comes together. Yeah.
So Sane walks in, she's all happy, and then Asuka shares the news that she has gotten Kairi a match with Io, and Kairi is heartbroken because she still has this hope of bringing this family back together. So Asuka just totally does a 180 and yells at her, slaps Kairi in the face, and Kairi explains, I understand. And Asuka says, oh, good girl, you better win. I would be happy if these two were on commentary on Raw every week.
We're kind of approaching that level.
Show.
Like
they have so many segments on this show. And
oh my God, yeah. Like to go from these two, like being like just throughout their entire WWE careers, where like they've just kind of been they've been main players, but they haven't really had speaking roles. They've either had people talking for them, or like in the case of Asuka, you're just kind of reduced to like your one-liner, right? They are on so many segments now where they're actually speaking and they're actually giving you characterization. I could see them basically get to the point where they're actually doing commentary for some of these matches. I thought this segment was, again, so great. And of course, like when you're watching all of this, you have to accept that this is all kind of taking place on some sort of like surreal like level, where it's not a real life. This is not a documentary that they're trying to play off here. Like you kind of have to buy into the surreality of it, almost like an SNL sketch, for instance. And it's usually like kind of comedic when you watch it that way. But then this particular segment took things to a very serious turn, with Asuka actually getting violent with Kairi, slapping her really hard. So it kind of turned like those laughs into a lot more serious concern. And I think, it just makes it that much more easier for you to feel that sympathy for Kairi Sane in this segment. Both of them I thought were excellent here.
Becky Lynch, Maxxine Dupri for the Intercontinental Championship. This is a rematch from August. And during that time, Maxxine has been doing NXT live events, although mainly in tags. And for this match, they got 13 and a half minutes. Early on, there was this really rough-looking dropkick by Maxxine that Wade never shies away from these. It just says, doesn't find the target, but finds a target. And from there, we see Maxxine just get right back up and hits this cannonball to the floor. She takes a backsploder into the barricade. And after the break, Maxxine makes this spirited comeback, and the crowd is just getting more and more into Maxxine to the point that like they are biting on near falls for this. We saw a sit-out powerbomb by Maxxine for a near fall. And then Maxxine bridges out of an armbar, goes back to the ankle lock, which gets a louder pop than earlier when she tried it, into a roll-up by Becky, who's just trying to evade all of these submissions from Maxxine. Maxxine stops a manhandle slam, catches her with a German, and then a spin kick, and this crowd explodes on this near fall. Becky hooks the tights that she's got to resort to. Maxxine then rolls her up, and Maxxine puts her feet on the rope, and Becky kicks out. Then it's Becky landing a kick and rams her into the barricade on the floor. And as the count is going, Becky gets onto the desk and is just taunting the crowd as Maxxine quietly sneaks into the ring, and Becky, who is hard of hearing, does not notice that the 10 count has been administered, and Becky gets counted out without noticing in 13 minutes and 35 seconds. Your thoughts on the match, Way?
So just the match itself. I was tremendously entertained by this one, and I think so much of my enjoyment of a lot of wrestling has to do with my expectations going to a match, and I don't know if it's any sort of like, I don't know if it's that much of a slight to say that like my expectations for a Maxxine Dupri match are pretty low. Like that is in fact her character here. You have Wade Barrett constantly reminding us that Maxxine is by far the least experienced wrestler on the roster. The contrast between these two is exactly what the hook of this match is. You're seeing Becky Lynch, the greatest of all time, and it's not just her saying it, versus the least experienced person on this entire roster. So I wasn't exactly looking forward to it, especially since their August match I don't think really was that great. So
it felt like this match is what they had envisioned in August, and it was like, again, I'm not going to say this was like flawless. I think you can see in Maxxine someone that is really putting a ton of effort into all of this, and I thought this was one where they clicked a lot better than they did in Montreal, and you had a crowd that just, they wanted to love this match, and they really just got into all the near falls, and that added a big portion to it.
Yeah, I found this to be one of the more engrossing wrestling matches I've seen this week. I found this more entertaining than almost everything I saw on Collision. And I think so much of that just comes down to just, again, my expectation level versus what I actually got, which was a really exciting match here between these two with just incredible sort of like pacing in those closing sequences where, I mean, a lot of what they did earlier on didn't look great. And I would even say that it's not just Maxxine, but Becky as well, you know, whiffing on some of those moves. But at the same time, they nailed what they needed to. And I thought the pacing and the build up to those specific near falls was just like so well done. I thought this was one of Becky's strongest showcases as a veteran in her ability to just, you know, lead somebody in a match. And for Maxxine, arguably the best match, maybe I would say maybe definitively the best match of her career, totally redeemed their August match. And I thought it was a very successful way at building a new challenger here in Maxxine Dupri.
I was totally fine with like the count out finish. I hated the way they did this. Like I thought you could have had Maxxine like winning by count out and it's a fluke type of thing. Mm-hmm. But it was just, I just thought this was like bad. How you even thought of like such a stupid finish. Like you could have had, God, like suddenly it's like they're at 9 and Maxxine just beats her into the ring. Like you could totally make her, it's a fluke win. I thought this was so lame, this finish.
I would have gone as far as to have had Maxxine actually get a fluke pinfall. Like I think Maxxine doing that near fall with her feet on the ropes, I thought would have been a perfectly suitable way here. You know, her actually cheating to beat the heel. I thought was more than fine in this situation. But they opted for something that I thought was, I mean, you know, it's how much of this is easy to believe in, I don't know. But the idea that Becky Lynch would be so distracted by wanting to taunt the crowd that she would forget the count out, I thought was pretty silly.
Reigns is with the Usos, and both are stating that they got Reigns back at Crown Jewel, but he doesn't need their help, especially from Jey, who needs to be focused on what he's doing. And he asks Jey, "Who's talking at the top of the hour?" He says, "CM Punk." "Not you, huh? Not the big crossover segment?" And Reigns tells Jimmy after Jey leaves that "I hear and see everything. So what's the issue with Jey taking advice from me?" So Reigns has been watching the show, and he sees these backstage segments.
I think he's the only person in this entire world that actually has access to, or at least chooses to watch these backstage segments on the show.
Yeah, well, he's got a VPN.
Yeah, he spends a lot of time at home, clearly, so he can actually sit at home and watch the shows. Yeah, very good on-screen chemistry as always between these three, and I think like throughout this episode they've established some really great tension between all of them now. You know, like you have Jey, who is so desperate at being a former champion that he's willing to well, listen and look up to older brother, Roman Reigns here. And then you have Jimmy, who has tension with Roman because Roman knows Jimmy does not approve of his influence on Jay. So I really feel like the key to all of this, though, is Jimmy Uso, and for me, like, this entire program has been a way to not just give Jay a new story, but also to lift Jimmy Uso to a level of prominence. And I think they've done a great job with that. He has been the most compelling he's been in years.
So if I lose, or if I have to wear some Blue Jays memorabilia, maybe you have to wear one of these shirts. Which one would you be tasked with?
Eating shirt? I never agreed to that. What does that have to do with anything?
What shirt would you rather be caught in public with?
Would I rather
day one, yeah. OTC 1, or Yeaton 8 Easy?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, would I have to pay for one of these shirts? Because that's another embarrassment altogether. Paying $50 for one of these.
Yeah. Does the Godfather get any royalties on this new line of merchandising for Jay?
Probably not. It's all going to Mark Shapiro. Yeah. I guess I'd pick the Roman Reigns one.
Dwayne Johnson is trying to mount his Academy Award campaign, as is Lyra Valkyria, who was caught off guard by Bayley, who appears right before Lyra's match and wants to be ringside. Oh, well, thanks for telling me, Bayley. How are you feeling today? Well, Raquel's going to be out there, so I need all the help I can get. So Bayley's in our corner.
They're not in the same category, but I mean, I don't know who the lead contenders are this year for Best Supporting Actress and Best Actress, but
I want Lyra to walk into a doctor's office in the waiting area and see a unsuspecting mixed martial artist and say, "What happened to your face? Are you familiar with mixed martial arts? It's like Ultimate Fighting."
Sign me up. A24, are you listening? All right. This is your next big production. All right. Yeah.
Bayley and Roxanne with Raquel and Bayley Lyra against Roxanne Perez with Bayley in the corner, Raquel opposite. They mentioned Perez second among most TV matches this year with 39 behind LA Knight with 40. Yes. The iron people of WWE. So Perez works on the left arm for quite a period here, and then Lyra has to fight back with one arm. She tries for the Nightwing, but it's countered into a roll-up. And then Bayley ends up helping Lyra, who is on the turnbuckle. Perez goes for a side Russian leg sweep off the buckle, but Bayley holds on to Lyra's arm, and thus Perez cannot hit it, and instead Lyra hits a moonsault for a 2 count. Raquel comes over, boots Bayley, and as Lyra calls for the Nightwing, she knocks down Raquel on the floor, and Perez does this dive into a DDT, and she almost had to adjust after the dive here. I thought she was going to kill Lyra here, but hit it, rolled her in, pop rocks, and Perez wins in her 39th televised match of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thought a good match overall between these two, like top of your class, members of like the latest group of NXT graduates. I think they're so fluid together, and I thought Lyra did a really good job in making a one-arm comeback. So now we've got Judgment Day individually beating both members of this team.
And Bayley just directs Lyra to the back to, I guess, go search for Roxanne Perez and Raquel.
Yeah, because
let's get on a plane. Let's go fly to Perth to go find them.
They didn't do that.
There's a video on Cena and AJ Styles as WWE continues to promote. They've done actually a pretty good job of promoting this match without the need for John Cena.
Yeah, why did they waste all those dates for?
Yeah, they could have. They could have just got the. They could have used Sora and promoted this.
True. Yeah.
So they show the history of these two. Back when AJ had the whole the soccer mom hair, and their matches at Money in the Bank and SummerSlam in 2016. We had some TNA footage in here.
Yeah, back when that match, I don't know if it was actually promoted as like the face of WWE versus the face of TNA. Back then.
It was the guy who made it to the majors. That's
right.
After being in the minors for 15 years.
Right. But now, retroactively, this is, a dream match that took place between two people on equal playing fields.
Yeah, from the top two companies in history.
Yeah.
So Cena is also going for his 100th PLE win this Saturday. And Jackie Redmond interviews Styles, but then Judgment Day walk in, and Dominic makes fun of AJ, saying, "How do you think you can beat Cena? You couldn't even beat me."
Ooh,
Which is pretty, I don't know, not exactly pumping your own reputation up too high. So Balor mentions how AJ and Lee want a tag title shot, and it leads to AJ suggesting, "I'm going to go find a partner, and we can have a 6-man tag tonight." And they're not even going to run this by Adam Pearce. AJ's got booking control.
Well, listen, he's been around for a long time, okay? He was the face of TNA.
He runs the place. Mm-hmm. Punk is seen walking in the back as Rusev argues with Adam Pearce. And then we got a graphic. All the different start times for Crown Jewel.
So simple, but so effective. I don't know if they've done this often in the past, if at all. But just a very simple way of explaining what time you might need to get up in the morning to watch.
Did you hear what happened to the PFL show over the weekend?
No.
So it was a pretty big show because it was a rematch between Usman Nurmagomedov and Paul Hughes, which was like a fight of the year contender earlier this year. So the rematch was taking place over the weekend. And for PFL fans, they watch this on ESPN Plus. So they log into ESPN like normal, and now it's ESPN Select. Only they now moved the show to ESPN Unlimited. And these fans found out if you want to watch this, you've got to pay the $30. And unlike WWE, PFL did no explanation of this in advance. So people just had to log in, and it's you either pay up for the portion of the country that doesn't get the app, but nothing to warn people in advance. Just
that sucks.
Oh, there were a lot of angry people, and justifiably so. I mean, if you're tuning in and all of a sudden you're paying for ESPN Plus, you subscribe to it, and that's where you've always watched PFL, and then you tune in, and now it's $30 to watch it in addition.
Yeah. So, do you think that's PFL's issue, or do you think they were as caught off guard with this?
It was ESPN's call to put it on ESPN Unlimited, but PFL, they should have had the knowledge in advance and alerted people, done what WWE did. At least get the word out there. To me, if you're logging in, it's I think just out of principle, you wouldn't want to buy this. It's you're making a pay-per-view out of this. Anyway, CM Punk comes out to start the second hour, and he's been gone. He wanted to keep his nose out of Rhodes and Seth's business, and then talks about celebrating with AJ after WrestlePalooza, and said, "I started my year beating Seth Rollins on Netflix. I'm going to end my year beating Seth, and I've earned a title shot." So LA Knight comes out, and he gets into his face. "Look at my eyes. What do you see?" And Punk was on his game here. He was so quick with his responses. "Someone who interrupted me." Knight explains
So do you think that was an improv line, or do you think all of this was, or at least a good chunk of this was pre-written? Because that's what I was curious about. It almost played so well that I have to think, especially that line with Knight playing off of it so well, that had to have been scripted, right? At the same time, you're dealing with two of the quickest people, I think, that are on this roster, and famously, for what we know of Knight, somebody who doesn't even know what he's going to talk about before going out there. For a segment like this, I'm sure he had more bullet points at the very least. But yeah, at least this felt so organic that I was wondering how much of it was written, because as organic as it felt, it didn't feel awkward.
No, I thought it felt very natural. I would not doubt that there were lines, they know what the body of the promo is, but I'm sure but CM Punk finishing off the Cult of Personality call off, that had to have been written beforehand, right? It might have been. It was the one later about the never ever thing that, Knight had a long pause afterwards. It was he did not have a follow up afterwards for 15 seconds. But he goes on. He explained he has earned his shot. He's the last guy to have beaten Seth, and he's also going to be the next. And then he tells Punk that you were known for the pipe bomb, but lately you're known for being a husband. And before he can even get this out, the crowd is like, where are you going here? And he's like, whoa, I'm not going to make this a bad thing. And Punk's like, yeah, what's the problem with being a husband? He said, and LA Knight, I swear, says,
this explanation.
Everybody needs love. And I congratulate you for cultivating that. You're a great husband, but as great of a husband as you are, you're a trash champion. What a segue.
Can I get that on an anniversary or Valentine's Day card, LA Knight? Congratulations on cultivating love, but you're a trash world heavyweight champion.
Yeah, so walking Valentine's Day card here is LA Knight. So Knight then asks Punk, guess who has never, ever, not never been pinned by Seth? And before he can even get it out, Punk responds, let me guess, the guy who has never, not ever, ever been champion. And Knight just takes this all in. And again, reiterates, he was the last to beat Rollins. He will be the next. Jey Uso comes out. He also wants a title shot. Everyone's arguing. Knight explains that Jey is not quite Roman enough, but that's a good thing. You should carve out your own path, and you too could be a great husband. This is about love. And he says, maybe you should focus on the tag titles. And then Jey ends up super kicking LA Knight. Jimmy comes down. Punk tells Jey to get behind him, and it leads to Jey getting decked by Punk. Jimmy takes out Punk, and that's how all of this ends.
I really enjoyed the segment. First of all, like just the showdown between Punk and Knight, I thought, again, felt very organic and kind of left you wondering, well, exactly how much of this was written beforehand, because it almost played so perfectly, yet like the interaction felt so real that you're just left wondering how much of this was like, scripted and how much of this was the two of them just like calling it in the ring and just being like demonstrating their incredible skill to be very quick. In either case, it came across really well. And then you just kind of folded Jey into this, and Knight called it out. This felt like deja vu from their build towards Clash in Paris, and there's just a sense of like, are they going to do this like 4-way again? Between these four, but I'm getting the sense that's not exactly what's happening. So Punk did say that he wanted to beat Rollins on Netflix to close the year. So that at least seems to indicate some form of title match that he'll likely receive before the end of the year on Raw specifically. Whether or not that'll involve the other two, I guess it remains to be seen. But I also just love the way that like the tension was built between everybody here. You have Jey and Jimmy, who are already at odds with each other, but are on the same page here. Jimmy is cool with LA Knight, but because of what Knight said about their tag team, well, now he's okay with Jey super kicking Knight. And then Jimmy and Punk are cool, but because Jey tried to deck Punk did not like that, so he decked Jey, and in connecting with Jey, that sets Jimmy off with CM Punk. So I just love the way that everybody's suddenly, we all started out as friends, but now we all hate each other.
Yeah. I got the sense at some point we're probably going to get a 3-way out of this, but I guess you could insert Jimmy into the mix as well. I'm thinking that someone here is getting the title shot at Saturday night's main event, because that'll be the next event they have to promote, and I mean, you could go with any of them here, but I see Punk as being, maybe later in the year.
So okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure.
Io Sky video. She says that what happened is Asuka's fault, not Rhea's. She broke her heart, and I used to look up to you like a big sister, but jealousy changed everything. And you were one of the reasons I became champion, but not the only reason. Rhea was right. Asuka only cares about what is best for her. And then she drops the bombshell. We are not family anymore, but I'm starting to learn who is, as they show a shot of Io and Rhea. Mm-hmm. She has left the home.
She has, yes. I think they've been doing a great job with all of this, but like most of the storytelling has taken place like in these sort of backstage skits. I thought this one, by the time this story got to this point, like the mood of this one seemed to demand a more serious, like sit down interview with like longer subtitled text.
Io Sky and Kairi Sane, this is their first singles match since March of 2017. when Io was the World of Stardom champion. So we're talking 8 years since their last match. Sky, they also did make mention earlier, Rhea is off doing media in Australia, so she's not there, which would play into the post-match. They had a nice match here. Io early on hits an Asai moonsault going to the break, and then Kairi hits this Alabama slam to Io on the edge of the apron. Sky would come back later with a missile. Crowd gets into it, misses the bullet train attack, and then after an insane elbow, Sky gets her feet up, hits the bullet train attack, and climbs to the top for over the moonsault. Asuka gets involved, so Sky goes after her, and it's Sane from behind with kind of a European clutch as Asuka grabs her arms for leverage in 9:51. Kairi beats Io, and afterwards, the two attack her, including an assisted insane elbow with the crowd chanting for Rhea, but Rhea many continents away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like this being the first match that these two have had with each other on the main roster, or just in WWE period, not even in NXT. That's kind of hard to believe, but
yeah.
Maybe like a part of me wonders if they could have built this up a bit better than just to have a match on Raw. At the same time, I feel like for the story, this was the right match to have, for like the big match at the end of all of this is Asuka versus Io. It's not necessarily Kairi versus Io. Kairi and Io was big, but like to really solidify Kairi's sort of like defection in siding with Asuka, I thought it was very appropriate for it to take place here. It was entertaining and technically great as you would expect, but it was made so much better by the storyline and the character motivation between the both of them, primarily Kairi, who I thought was one of the highlights of this entire show.
Then we go to yet another video to promote our matches for Saturday. It's part 2 of Cody and Seth, Allies. And it focuses on Cody's recovery after the Hell in a Cell match in 2022, how he was full of doubt, but he was able to come back and won the Royal Rumble. And then at WrestleMania 39, he learned he can't do it alone as he lost to Roman Reigns, as Rollins explains that previously Roman had a shield, now he has a bloodline. And Rollins opted to help Cody 1 year later at WrestleMania 40 because Reigns' power needed to be checked. Cody was thankful to Rollins and always will be because he got to live out his and his father's dream, becoming champion. But Rollins says how it cost him everything, and just several months later, Cody threw it all away, teaming up with Roman. And Cody explains in his Cody way that he says enemies can become allies, and I thought of all people, Seth, you would understand that. And he accuses Seth of living in the past, using tropes such as aligning himself with Muscle and an Oracle. And that is part 2.
Well, specifically calling out the sort of irony of him wanting to take out Roman so badly, but instead essentially turning to a modern day Roman Reigns, teaming with Paul Heyman and surrounding himself by, I guess, people in a faction. I thought this was a great video. Honestly, it made it like we all saw it take place. We all watched these stories unfold, but to kind of have this like refresher crash course in like 2 minutes, just kind of like ties everything really well together and makes it, whether or not it actually was at the time, it makes you believe that this was a very well thought out, long-term cohesive story that they had planned, where you can totally understand how they would get from A to B, how these two would get from working together at Mania to Cody letting Roman back in, the very threat that Rollins evidently sacrificed so much to get rid of. Cody believing in redemption, believing in second chances. What did he let
back in? Like he teamed with him. Like what did he let?
He brought him back in. So I mean, WrestleMania 40, I suppose, was supposed to just help us get rid of Roman Reigns for good. He was supposed to be out of the industry. He would have gone on to AEW, and
were those the stakes? Was his contract up for grabs? Did he suffer a debilitating injury that we were not aware of? Because
I maybe to Seth Rollins he thought it was, but I guess the betrayal was there, and I think that it was told even in the lead up to War Games and everything else. Right?
It was.
It was well told, but we kind of lose sight of it when so much time has taken place and when it's been so spread out. They condensed everything here, and it just completely makes sense why Rollins would hate Cody Rhodes so much. You went back on your word, and or at least they had a difference of opinion regarding Roman Reigns. Cody thinking that you can redeem or be redeemed, much like Rollins has been redeemed in the past, and Rollins feeling differently. I thought they did a great job here.
Becky is just pacing back and forth with Heyman and Rollins, complaining about her loss to Maxxine, the referees, and she is not going to Perth because she needs to reevaluate. Be like, why would you go to Perth?
To support.
To support? That's a lot of support. I've got a child. Yeah. Take my baby on a however long flight to Perth.
Okay, there's that. But there's also having to raise your child by yourself. Okay, single-handedly. I mean, I'm sure it's doable. I'm sure, Ruth feels like I'm sure they're more than capable. But it's always easier to have two.
Okay. Well, Rollins and Heyman pretty much ignore her. She leaves, and Rollins needs to talk with Paul, and he says, I need to win on Saturday. But what if I don't? And Heyman's just like, you're going to win. There's no chance you'll lose. But he says, what if I do? So Heyman gets serious and says, well, if you lose, you'll lose the locker room and the confidence of Reed and Breakker, and you'll become a wannabe secondary champion. So I suggest you don't lose. A lot of last-minute stakes here added to this match. And then he asks, what about you? What happens if I lose? And Heyman says, well, then I will have to ask myself why I chose you over Roman Reigns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like the fact that Rollins is treating the Oracle, Paul Heyman, as if he's like a computer that can predict the future. He's essentially computer, what happens if I lose? And then this is a computer, of course, that is also a bit of a politician. So he's very soft with the answers, but I don't, you might be tapping into ChatGPT and ChatGPT might be giving you a very nice answer, but you're just no, tell me it this way, tell me exactly what I want to hear. And Heyman eventually told him what he wanted to hear, and that's that Heyman will leave him, or at least he'll question being with him and at all if he does lose. So,
are you saying that there would be a technology where Paul Heyman would tell somebody what they want to hear? That sounds preposterous.
That is the character, right? Yeah. I mean, this to me really spells out Rollins winning, doesn't it? He can't lose after this.
I think that's the only outcome you could have here. To go the other way, it kind of you almost have to dissolve the vision, and I think it's more of note that you could have. Seth winning. Jay's all upset about Punk punching him in the face for no good reason. Jimmy's in the middle here, and Jay is upset with Jimmy, thinking he was trying to protect Punk, even though Jimmy did super kick the guy. Jimmy tells Reigns that, you're messing with Jay's head, and we're not like you. And Reigns, alone with Jimmy, says, when Jay won that title, he became a lot more like me and a lot less like you. You loser. And you should just get out of his way.
I love it.
Cold.
Yeah. I mean, in prior weeks, I was asking, what exactly does Jimmy have an issue with Jay taking advice from Roman Reigns? Because I didn't really know either. Now, they're having Roman play a lot darker than I think he was initially just in coming back. We thought he was just a good guy who'd been redeemed, but this was Roman definitely looking a bit more like the tribal chief, and Jimmy understandably not being okay with that.
Dominic Mysterio, Finn Balor, and JD McDonough against AJ Lee and Penta. AJ goes to speak, but is immediately cut off by the Judgment Day's music, so we don't get Allen and a promo, at least at the beginning. So they beat on Dragon Lee for 3/4 of this match. He manages this big dragon screw to JD. Looked like he sent his ACL into the third row. And then Lee comes off the buckle, caught with a drop kick from JD. And then out of the corner, he hits a Liger bomb to Dominic, makes the tag to Penta, who comes in, standing Spanish fly by JD. And then Styles and Dom are in. The 619 gets stopped because Dominic sees Rusev making his way to the ring. So Dominic runs to the floor. Penta goes after Dominic, and as he lines him up for a super kick, Dominic gets out of the way, so Penta super kicks Rusev, and Dominic escapes through the crowd, abandoning his Judgment Day teammates as Styles is left with JD to win with the Styles Clash in 14:05. We not only got AJ Styles talking, we also got AJ Styles dancing, going to break.
Doing the Penta dance, yes.
Yes, which brought us back to, remember that time that AJ and Jericho had to dance going to a commercial break? It was...
I do not.
Yeah, it was horrendous. But AJ gets on the mic, and he says, "Hell, me and John Cena, we don't need a story. We don't need a video package. It writes itself. We're going to leave it all in the ring. And me, with the good power of Aries, it will kick ass." I hope that they have their cards on all corners for the sake of Alan and John.
AJ better watch out holding that microphone. All the electromagnetic waves might be affecting him without his Aries.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been interesting seeing how they built to this John Cena match without Cena at all, and I think
it's been fine. I mean,
perfectly fine.
Oh man, the contract signing that we were left upon. This has been fine. Like it's
but
really
people
like
willed it. You don't need a contract.
The match is the story. Yeah,
we got a tweet from Paul Levesque. That's better than a contract.
Yes, the Grandmaster himself. So yes, making everyone's wishes come true. Punk and Knight meet. Neither want to have this match. I was looking at the time. It's like it's 10:20. I don't think anyone wants to have this match at this point. So Knight tells him, "Don't get pinned." Great advice. Next week for Raw in Perth, it's Dominic and Penta for the IC title. It sounds almost like a guarantee Rusev will get involved. And then Roxanne and Raquel against Bayley and Izzy. No, it'll be Bayley and Lyra.
Could Izzy? Well, if she doesn't get signed, she could do a really funny thing.
I hope she could be NIL by the end of the week. So the Usos against Punk and LA Knight close the show. Just a very, very formulaic match with Knight just getting beaten on, hits a neck breaker on Jay, makes the tag to Punk, and then it would break down. All four men are in the ring. Jimmy takes the blunt force trauma. Jay spears Punk, but as he goes for the Uso splash, he is stopped. And Jay then goes to deal with Knight on the apron, and because of Knight taking away his focus, he gets caught with a GTS, and then Knight tags himself in to the chagrin of Punk, and it's LA Knight taking the fall, pinning Jay to close off the show.
Yeah. I think having Jay take the pin instead of Jimmy, might have been intentional in that, you could have Jay, basically questioning himself further and diving deeper into Roman Reigns' influence, and Roman saying, "Where were you, Jimmy?" So that's basically exactly the same story that Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton might be doing on SmackDown. Which is fine. I think that's a bit.
Maybe that's where we're going. Maybe it's Jimmy that's the one who's going to be open to a new path.
Could be. I thought the Usos were working a bit more heelish here. You could see them doing stuff behind the ref's back and everything, and I thought that showed some pretty interesting growth of character. So, also interestingly, you had the Usos come out to Jay's version of the song and not the joint version that they were coming out to in previous weeks. So that might just speak to some of the storyline of Jay feeling like his brother's holding him back.
I think their next feud, brother versus brother, it needs to coincide with a 2K release, and it comes down to their rating, their game rating.
Ooh,
I think that's where the brothers have a divide.
What's this year's rating? Let me see. WWE 2K. What is it? 26? 25. Jay Uso, Jimmy Uso rating.
How far apart are we?
Okay, Jay Uso is 90. Okay. Jimmy is 87.
Ooh.
That's a WrestleMania build right there.
Man, I'm 3 points better than you, brother. Yeah. So there you go. That was Raw. A correction from earlier. I said 6 matches. 5 matches on the Perth card on Saturday with Cody and Seth, Stephanie Vaquer and Tiffany Stratton, Cena Styles, Ripley and Io against the Kabuki Warriors, and the Australian street fight between Don't Call Me Jonah and Roman Reigns.
Okay, so as far as Australians on the card, we have Bronson Reed and Rhea.
That's it, right?
Yeah. Okay. What do you think?
I mean, you'll probably get. I mean, they are also doing SmackDown and Raw, so I imagine that'll be our Grayson Waller fill.
I think it's a good looking card on paper. I mean, Rollins and Cody, it's a legacy feud, and I think it's fresh enough for now.
This does feel like this should be significantly better, I would say, in-ring show, like by leaps and bounds from WrestlePalooza, I would think, just based on the lineups here. Like, I don't see any of these matches being terrible.
No.
Yeah, so that's coming up on Saturday. Tonight's show, it was like there were some very good video packages. I think in terms of like the central stories are still like who is going to get this next shot against Seth Rollins after Crown Jewel, with all of them feuding, and this whole like Kabuki Warriors Io Sky story, which to me continues to be like the kind of like the glue of Raw most weeks. And I think like all of these women have really stepped up in this scenario. It might be really over the top for some people, but I have enjoyed the segments, and I thought you got like honestly, Kairi Sane has had like a rough go of things, I think, generally, and tonight was like a pretty good match that she had with Io.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's been like some of the best stuff on Raw. And again, you're not grading it from an Academy Award nomination.
My
level.
Academy Award criteria.
You kind of have to accept that like wrestling is not the place you go to for great acting, but like if you just let yourself enjoy it, it's actually been very good storytelling, which has resulted in some great wrestling already so far. I really enjoyed this edition of Raw. I think top to bottom, you just had like strong, like interesting character advancement up for everything, and contrasting it with how I feel about SmackDown overall. It's so clear how much better the writing is on Raw versus SmackDown.
Yeah, I think generally, you have a lot more. There's overall just a more cohesive direction that even if you're not necessarily getting an advancement in a story, you can see it's going somewhere, and you generally have like an intrigue of like where exactly is this going, with the faith that it's that they do have a path that's kind of charted out for your main characters at least.
Yeah, I'm not even aware how different these writing staffs are between the two, but like I'm just watching and talking about it as somebody who watches both very closely. I just think it's so clear how much more compelling and interesting the people are on Raw versus SmackDown.
Well, I mean, like we always kind of go to like Julia is this example of a character that just sort of is like floating in space on SmackDown, and even if you don't want to compare like her being the secondary champion to like, even if you look at Becky as like now being the number one belt, like compare her to Stephanie Vaquer, who has just been handled with like so much better in comparison.
And we don't have a Kit Wilson on Raw.
Well, we could always, just split up Pretty Deadly and address that problem. That's definitely potential. All right. So again, folks, we're back in 24 hours after Title Tuesday, and we will be going through that show. Poison Rana will be covering Showdown. So we will have our own Showdown here at youtube.com/postwrestling. Hit subscribe and do leave us your feedback if you are so inclined. That's very fancy.
That's a fancy little graphic. Yeah.
Look at that. So yes, check out the Post Wrestling Cafe. That's where we're going now to continue to take your feedback and questions. Goodbye.
You want to be that much more impressed? Check this out. QR code appearing up here for anybody who wants quick access to the Post Wrestling Cafe.
Wow.
That's worth putting your Jay's hat on, John.
That's it.
Tuesday, the real showdown. All right, Yankees Jays Game 3.
That's it. That's going down Tuesday night. It's going to obliterate AEW and NXT in the big data and panel. Okay, they're going to be. It's going to be big bats and pitching. That's going to be okay. I'm so tired today. I'm so exhausted today. That's it for us on the YouTube version. We'll chat with you on Tuesday night. Now we head on over to forum.postwrestling.com.